Show comments, of course. I've got to allow the masses to have their say. I don't block comments because I'm not a coward like mainstream media.
Look at that for our backdrop.
That's very good. I like it.
Do some advertising.
I reckon we can do that. Actually, did you get that first draft of that thing through to your email?
No.
Sent it to Irvine Simon's email.
Nails that.
Yeah. I'll have to resend it.
When?
Well, it was just like a mock-up
When did you
version,
send
of
it?
course, a couple of days ago. Monday, Tuesday, maybe. Or maybe it might have been Friday. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'll have
Could
to
it
have a
be?
look.
Could it be?
Could have been.
It's been hectic.
Oh, mate.
Right? Hectic.
I hear you now. Looks like our Facebook feed's working. We are about 30 seconds early, but that's never a bad thing. It's always better to be too early than too late, I reckon.
Excellent.
Pro Feral Pest Management.
Mm-hmm.
That's effectively a show sponsor, really, isn't it?
It is.
This is
some topical stuff that we want to touch on.
Yeah.
Relative to all that.
Well, that all sounds fair and reasonable to me. I'll try to be fair and reasonable.
What is some promo?
Some promo, you reckon?
I've got some promo. Don't you bloody believe it, son?
Oh, look, I believe you. I believe you. Actually, we could, I wonder. What's this thing doing?
This is good promo.
Not that one, that bugger off. What we could do, just for fun, maybe. No, that'll be right. I'll find it later. Apps, technology at its finest. Love technology. It's the best. Sometimes. When
What
it
about that one?
suits.
That one's all right.
Irvine Science. I've heard rumours about that bloke. Seems a bit dodgy.
Dodgy ads.
Dodgy as. Apparently hurts feelings and all sorts of shit. Right, we're 2 minutes in. It's 7:32. Let's get this party started. You ready?
Right. G'day.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, those confused folk as well, you can watch, I don't mind, not a problem.
In-betweeners?
In between, whatever. It's all good. Welcome to the program, Dinner of Spin Doctors, 30th episode based on, I don't know, the current timeline of timelines. Once again, welcome to everybody who's going to tune in this evening. There's going to be fun, frivolity, quiet commentary. What else are we going to have tonight?
Measured, considered commentary on the happenings locally and worldwide.
Sounds like a good plan. Good plan. Now, you had I guess the first things first, you better do your bum covering exercise.
Well,
very importantly, you get this out in the first, at the start of the episode, just because I know there's a few people who like to take notes and potentially send you letters or send me letters. It's always kind of amusing.
My name's Anthony Irvine. I'm a councillor on Temora Shire Council here, but none of the views I express here are those of Temora Shire Council. They're mine and mine alone. Now, I'll comment on some council matters, and when I'll do, I'll preface them with this is my opinion, or this is what happened, and I'll play a recording and I'll back it up, and there'll just be stuff like that.
Fantastic. And I don't have to technically do any of that. All my opinions are my own. And, I just happen to be the guy who sits here, co-hosts this little program with you as we roll through and hold a few people accountable.
I don't want people to get confused and confuse what I might say as being the opinion of Temora Shire Council.
I totally understand that. Unfortunately for me, I don't have that noose around my neck, so to speak.
And quite often, my opinion and that of Temora Shire Council are poles apart. And even my opinion and that of my fellow councillors are quite often poles apart.
I'm not sure that's possible. Once you join council, you must toe the line.
Well, we had a show there last week following the council meeting, and there were two notices of motion I put forward. And both notices of motion were lost.
They were lost.
The motion wasn't carried. And the only person who voted in the affirmative was myself.
Yeah, right.
And 8 councillors voted against. Well, anyway, we've got some audio we can listen to relative to that later if we feel inclined.
Excellent. Excellent. It does seem like a target-rich environment to be.
Now, one thing that I never touched on last week was there's been a recent recruit. The Temora Independent recruited a fellow called Thomas Gosling. Now, it appears he's put an article together in the paper today, Thursday, the 28th of August. But at last week's council meeting, he announced he's going back into retirement. So apparently Thomas came out of retirement to take up a position with the Temora Independent.
Right. And we've retired him already.
But he's retired. He's decided to retire himself. From what I could gather, Thomas doesn't live locally.
Oh, right.
Thomas nearly had a close coming together with a kangaroo going home one evening. And I think Thomas just said to himself,
I don't need this in my life.
Why am I doing
for the
this?
Temora Independent, who, up until very, very recently,
so I
failed to be much of a newspaper.
Now,
what's in the Temora Bugle today? I did see the cover.
Well,
a few people made the cover fairly, known to me today. Anything of any interest? I know that we're now a Labor Party stronghold here in Temora. Proud red wearing team.
Well, look, there's a bit of a, what would you say? Let's just say that the Country Mayors Association and a few of the local government officials are pushing a narrative that cost shifting is an issue.
Cost shifting.
And Thomas, on his way out the door, who's quite a helpful journalist in the space, has put together an article that deals with cost shifting, and he's come up with some interesting figures. And he starts off with, did you know that nearly $500 of your annual council rates bill goes to pay costs that should be paid by the New South Wales and federal governments? That is the shocking conclusion of a new report compiled by Local Government New South Wales, LGNSW, the lobby group representing councils.
Oh, good.
LGNSW also provide training for councillors. They also provide legal advice for councils. They provide a range of services. It's a member-based organisation. So they're creating content. The report found communities are going without better parks and streets, safer roads, and get lower quality of services such as development applications and weed control because they are paying hidden taxes to other levels of government.
No, this country wouldn't have hidden taxes. God, no. There's no such thing in this country. We are not one of the most overly taxed, overly raped and pillaged countries on planet Earth per capita. Not a shot.
Temora Shire Council last week voted to bang the drum by posting the report on its website and giving it the widest possible publicity because we cannot continue on this current trajectory.
Who made that statement?
It's here's a statement out of the mayor's mouth, apparently. It is unfair to our communities that such a large portion of their rates are being diverted away from local priorities, said Mayor Rick Furman in a special minute for council. Now, apparently this $500 per rate notice is an average across New South Wales. So it's not specifically Temora.
Oh, right.
A person I know commented who's on a rural holding and they don't pay $500 in rates. They haven't got sewage, they haven't got garbage, they haven't got a lot of things.
Yeah.
So their actual rate bill is less than $500.
As it should be.
To Temora Shire Council.
It should be zero.
Anyway. What's new? It's tax, tax, tax. There's 3 tiers of government. They have 3 tiers of government, so they've all got someone else to blame.
Of course.
Heaven help us if we had 1 tier of government and all of the problems could be seated to one central location.
Heaven forbid.
Heaven forbid if there was someone ever to be held accountable for the...
I'll take the blame for it. It's my fault. I'm at fault for the fact that your rates are very expensive because I have failed to shut all these clowns up and get rid of most of them. So it is actually my fault Please blame me for it.
So government takes $500 for your rates, but I always thought Temora Shire Council
is government. It's part of
local
government and
is the
local
third
government.
tier of government.
It's not even the third tier. It's an arm of the state government.
It's a construct of the state.
Correct. It's a load of bullshit, is what it is. And effectively, they're being robbed by themselves, for themselves, in lieu of the people who, I don't know, pay rates and work for a living. So, as usual, we want to pass the buck. We want to move money around in the ledger to effectively steal at a higher rate. It reminds me of, the movie Casino, where they're just skimming off the top and stealing a little bit more. And what did Joe Pesci say? No matter, when you ask a guy to steal for you, no matter how much you don't want them to, they're going to steal a little bit extra for themselves. That's just how it's going to be. And governments and politicians are thieves. That's how it is. End of story. No maybe, no whatever. They're going to steal a little bit for themselves. That's just how the whole system's set up. And sadly, we, the ratepayer, and let's be fair, government's the only organisation on the planet that effectively steals from the entire planet and still manages to not have any money.
Well, because they spend it on silly
They
things.
waste it. Let's not call it spending. Let's call it what it is. Waste. I'm convinced we could gut the government, the whole thing, state, federal, local, the whole lot, to the tune of about 75%, maintain our national defence, and look, I don't mind Medicare. I made a post today saying I don't mind Medicare, but let's not pretend it's free. We pay for it. It is paid for by the ratepayers, the taxpayers, the tax theft victims of the country, and it's a pretty good program. The medical system in this country is pretty good. So you can keep that one, but we'll keep paying for it. We'll pay for defence. Everything else, privatise the shit out of it. And yes, that includes schools, because let's be fair, our kids don't need to be learning about smoke signals and blokes in dresses with beards. That's very confusing, that, for children. Maybe a really nice person, don't know, don't really care. Not sure why we're paying for it and the trouble. I'd actually like to see students funded, not schools.
Yeah, there's something in that.
And I would like the opportunity as a parent to go, right, I'm displeased with, and every parent should have the same right. So if we're going to budget for a, I don't know, you've got 3 kids in your house. Let's say the budget, just for a nice round numbers, is 20 grand a kid per year, per month, per whatever the number is, right? We'll say 20 grand a year is allocated to said child for education. You've got 3 of them. So 60 grand sitting there for your family in education. And you go, I really like what I like what Temora West is doing. I'm very disappointed in St Anne's at the moment. St Anne's aren't meeting my values. These are hypothetical, so I'm not pointing out the schools specifically.
Yeah.
I'd like
school
to.
A, school B.
I'm really happy with what they're doing at the West. I'm going to take my 60 grand allocation and direct it towards that school. They're getting good results that I, as a parent, am happy with. That's the school that I'm going to be sending my children to, and that's where that funding follows. Therefore, the schools that are doing a better job in the eyes of the community have more funding, therefore more resources, more students, user pay system. And the schools that are doing very poorly or who are not meeting community standards will find parents driving that funding. The hypothetical 20 grand could be 50. I don't know what they're wasting on
under that model.
Yep.
A school could go broke.
Yep. And shut it down. Happily done. Bye. You're not meeting any.
So there'd be a fair onus on the school to run
something that is in line with community standards,
expectations,
not the standards of wanker politicians and deluded school teachers and uni wankers, in line with what the parents want, in line with the parents' expectations of a child's.
Well, after all, they're paying for it.
Correct. We're paying for it anyway. Like we just don't,
taxation.
That's right. We don't currently pay for it directly. They tell us it's free. We all know it's not. We work our guts out.
Yes, and
they steal X amount of it.
People
they pay a little bit more.
But there's a percentage that is funded by the government. And there's a percentage that's funded by
absolutely
the individual.
But if you're going to be able to direct your children to the best school for that child, and I imagine under that model there would be, and again I'll just say, look, for argument's sake, the Temora Public School goes, well, we want to be really, let's not worry about the kids that are aiming for universities. Let's set up some really great practical programs for these
Like a
kids.
trade.
We'll do
Vocational
mechanicking.
training,
We'll do, even at that young age, but we'll have a sort of a focus on our education curriculum being along the lines of those types of roles and existences in life. So you'll find that parents, I look at Ryder and I think to myself, I don't see uni in your future, pal. I see the trades in your future. So learning calculus and, whatever social sciences or whatever is going on there at the moment probably isn't that important. I really like maths, English, a little bit of science maybe, but then push him into those sort of more vocational type things. I would then go, right, I'm taking that 20 grand per year. I'm going to put him down to the primary school. I mean, he's in high school now, but same thing as you go up the line. The theory holds true.
Again,
and again,
the big battle you're going to have is you've got all this bureaucracy that's set up to control and spend this money as if they're going to vote themselves out of existence.
Look, we all know that this is a problem, and I'm more than happy to have them all eradicated.
There's a lot of people who are actually voting with their feet, and they're actually homeschooling.
Now, I'm good with that as well.
Even if there was, would you consider being a single parent and you haven't got, because you've got to go and make the bread?
Yes.
Hunt and gather.
Correct.
You haven't got time to
sit around and do it. Yeah, I haven't got time to sit around and do let's do math.
Yeah. So would you, if you could access the funding available for your son, even if someone set up something that you considered was worthwhile in a homeschooling,
I'd absolutely transfer him straight over to it. Not a problem at all.
Yeah.
And arguably you'd find teachers who, let's say, share more of my values.
Yeah.
And still have the educational capability, and it doesn't matter which system they roll out and bang whatever drum on. Now I know these guys want to bang drums. I'll bang a drum. There are going to be kids who are going to fall through the cracks no matter which system you set up. Makes no difference. Kids fall through the cracks with the bullshit current communist system we're running, where they all must and you will, and we know best. The reality is the modern education system hasn't been around that long. When you look at it on a societal scale, a couple 100 years.
Well,
in the current structure, I mean, this sort of style of education hasn't been around. It's not the only way to do these things. I've got no doubt about it. There's a whole
ridiculousness in that. A couple of generations ago, when you were 12 or 13, you were going to work.
Yeah.
It's not that.
That's what I'm what I'm getting at.
It's not that far back that, look, I won't say that. 3 or 4 generations ago, if you were 13 or 14, you were probably going to a full-time job.
Yep. And there are some.
They've kept kids back at school longer and longer and longer and longer. And the outcome is this overeducated individual who probably
has no skills whatsoever,
really doesn't make a meaningful contribution to society, and basically has to find a niche where they can.
Now, I've recently signed Ryder up for private tutoring as well, like a digital class thing. He does a 1 day a week with a local fellow, Mr. Nielsen, and then he's got 4 nights a week where he does this other program that I'm paying for. And as I've explained to them, I expect to see some improvement in results, or I'm going to pull my money from you.
But
now, the same.
Bear in mind, there's one thing to, for example, I've got a guitar hanging up there.
Yes, if you don't practice, he doesn't do the work. Yeah, absolutely.
You can send Ryder to me for guitar lessons, and I've got him for half an hour a week.
Yeah.
And if he goes home and the guitar sits in the corner, and the next time he picks it up when he's on his way to guitar lessons, you know what? I'm going to ring you up after a month, and I'm going to say, Dean, here's your money, keep it.
The beauty of this system is, the one particularly that I've looked at is every week I get a running report. Every week they modify and I go, look, he really did well at this portion. And that's from their end. From his end, I've obviously put some carrot and some stick on the, your sporting career very much hinges on, getting through these outcomes. And I don't expect you to be perfect, but I expect you to be putting in the effort. Yeah. And on the other side of it is this program actually does have rewards and things like that as well. I suppose they're using my money for something productive, but I've also put some rewards on the table. But these things must be done.
Look, but if you're going to make an investment, the investment,
But we don't have that with our schools. Our schools here currently in the current, and I don't mean tomorrow, I mean Australia-wide, glorified babysitting services for 80% of these things. And there's a large portion of teachers, not all of them, that are nothing more than glorified babysitters, or they're indoctrinating children with complete bullshit. And I would much rather go, oh, there's Mrs. Jones, name out of a hat, who I really like everything that she's done. She's decided to leave that system because she thinks they're doing a shit job and they're not teaching the things that our children possibly should be learning. I may go, I really agree with you on all that. Do you know how to get my kid to read, write, and count? Yes, I'm brilliant at it. Right, the 20 grand I've got there is now going to Mrs. Jones's school for whoever, and it's up to her to make sure that that funding is spent however the hell she needs to do it. And if she's doing a phenomenal job and ends up with 500 students, she's going to have to work out how to manage that and whether she's going to bring in teachers that share her values. That turns into a thing. And if a school goes broke, based on the fact that these parents are all pulling their kids out and going, I'm not signing up for this shit, and pull all your money out, and the school goes broke, the building's still there. Mrs. Jones's school should be more than eligible then to say, well, we'd like to take the lease of said school, as opposed to this entrenched, well, you just have to go there and that's how it is and there's nothing you can do about it. And if you don't like it, bash it up your butt. Well, hang on a minute. I'd like to see the education system flipped completely. And please, somebody explain to me why we've got a Department of Education at a federal level and a Department of Education at a state level when federal doesn't run any schools. Why is it there? The states run the schools. So why are we doubling up on a department full of wanker bureaucrats?
I'm going to put the uni student somewhere.
To run fucking nothing.
Back to cost shifting.
Yes.
Now, there's a complaint.
This will be good.
Well, there's a complaint from Temora Shire Council and our Mayor Rick Furman about cost shifting. But here we are. This is a media release from the 11th of August. Temora and Bland businesses one step closer to solving regional HR challenges. So businesses across Temora and Bland Shires are a step closer to gaining the HR support they've been calling for, following the latest stage of a joint council initiative to address one of the region's most pressing business challenges. So roads, rates, rubbish and HR. With a shortage of qualified HR professionals in the area,
good,
ever-increasing compliance obligations, government-driven,
and
the difficulty of attracting and retaining skilled staff, well, pay enough money and you'll probably get them, many local employers are feeling the strain. Now, thanks to the Regional Drought Resilience Program, Temora and Bland Shire councils are working directly with business owners to design a practical, sustainable HR support model tailored to regional needs. The second in a series of employer workshops will be held this month, with businesses invited to review findings from the first round of consultation and give feedback on several potential HR support solutions.
So we've created another bureaucracy to argue about the bureaucracy that's causing problems.
Temora Shire said the project is about responding to the real-world needs of local employers. With so many of our businesses focused on growth and sustainability, we can't afford to ignore their HR challenges. This process is about giving them the right tools, support and strategies to build strong, resilient teams, he said. Now, excuse me, but this program is relying on grant funding. That grant funding is coming from the people that are paying rates, and taxes,
of course.
So it's more low.
It's just tax churn. We're gonna churn that money through so that three idiots can generate a job out of it that shouldn't have a job because they provide nothing of benefit.
Well, it's run by a consultancy.
They're the idiots that we're talking about.
Well,
but even if they're intelligent people, they're idiots who are taking up our tax dollars and they are parasites feeding off our taxes. It's nonsense.
If it was a product that businesses required, they'd be procuring it themselves.
Of course. If they could afford it with whatever's left over after they're taxed to the eyeballs.
Well, after they've got their electricity bill and their registration for their vehicles and their workers' compensation and their...
And the three lawyers you need just so that you... Yeah, that's right.
And then you've got... look, HR is such a unusual space at the moment.
You're very diplomatic with that.
Well,
oh God, we get to look at her and her. Oh, the heroin addict trafficker's wife. What a delight.
now, Victoria scraps work from home recommendations as spring arrives. The Victorian government has announced work from home recommendations have been lifted, with workers being encouraged to return to the office.
It's actually nothing to do with them. None of their fucking business at all.
Introduced to prevent the spread of the virus and protect the health system, the Department of Health said the pressure and transmission risk is now reduced. So this news article came out.
The government
No,
the virus.
That's an old article. Sorry, I'm leading up the garden path there. I need to find news. So
one day.
This is one day. Sorry, that was remiss of me. I pulled out an old news article.
That's all right. Just run with it because we don't correct ourselves here. Oh no, we do. That's the Timor Independent that just comes out with bullshit.
No, I'm telling you, we don't need to be doing that. We need to get the right news at the right time.
Yes, of course we do. I'm being extremely sarcastic.
Now, what have we got going on here with this?
But I mean, look, as far as I'm concerned, Victoria's working from home is the equivalent of the abortion shit. It's none of their business. Mind your business. Shut up. Stay out of it. If I'm an employer and I want you on site or at work or in the office, that's where you're going to be working from. End of story. If you want to work from home, go and find an employer who wants you to is happy to do that. And there may be some there. Let's pretend I'm the guy who says that I want to employ people who work from home. Come and work for me. No problem at all. But if you're the employer who expects your people to be on site, end of story. And if you want to work from home job, find one of those employers. If you don't want to work from home, don't. These idiots have no role in it. None whatsoever. Why are you there?
This is what on earth's going on there? I've got stuff going on this screen that shouldn't be there. I can't get the stuff on the screen that I want. Right.
This idiot busy trying to put up a statue of Dan Andrews, for God's sake.
Well, here we are. We've got Temora Shire Council and Bland Shire Council running these HR programs. We've got a whole state here. Victorian Premier Jacinta Allen has defended her plans to legislate a right to work from home 2 days per week, despite a leading Australia company blaming work from home for major fall in profits. The plumbing company Reece revealed on Monday that profits for the 2025 financial year had fallen 24%, with CEO Peter Wilson citing the work from home culture in Melbourne, where the company is headquartered, as one of the key causes of the slide.
So here's my first set of advice to you, Peter. Relocate the headquarters of your company, move it to a business-friendly state. Get rid of all the donkeys that are working for you in Melbourne. Keep the contracts if you so choose, but relocate the company. Even if you've got to relocate it overseas. That's my recommendation to you, Peter. Bugger Victoria, don't pay any of their taxes. And then what that will also create it's competition among the states as to who's going to be the most business-friendly state. And then you'll see businesses like that packing up going, if, for example, and it won't be New South Wales because Minns is a communist like the rest of them, let's say, righto, I'm going to become the Prime Minister of Tasmania. For argument's sake. That'll do. That'll do. We'll do that just for argument's sake. And I may get the most. No, mate, you tell everyone you want, bring a company down here. We're going to have the lowest taxes for businesses and companies we can build. The federal government, we're going to do our own thing. You watch how many companies pack up and move there. That's why companies are headquartering themselves all overseas. So people go, oh, they're siphoning profits off, not paying. Good. If our government weren't such a big bunch of parasitical thieves, they'd probably go, you know what, it's only 10%. We'll pay it happily.
But even just back to a real basic local level, here we are. We've got Blandshire and Temora Shire investing in this program and trying to manage HR for all the businesses in the area. Now, they're big businesses. They are probably the biggest employers in both centres.
Which
No.
that in and of itself is
No, well,
take out Altura, I would imagine,
and
maybe.
Evolution.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that'd
so-
be a massive employer over there. So
Yeah.
that's a whole game changer. And I don't imagine Evolution are coming to these workshops.
No, I can't imagine Evolution. And if they are,
And I don't imagine
they're sending
Altura Ag are coming to these workshops.
No, they might be sending an apprentice there so that
Yeah.
there's somebody there wearing a shirt that says Evolution or Altura, I'd
Now,
imagine.
I've been in business since 1990. At one point, when there were workplace agreements in place, Irvine Signs had their own workplace agreement.
Cool.
And it was with the Fair Work Authority. Like it was.
Oh, right.
It was a workplace agreement that was lodged and accepted.
Yep.
And it was a simple 20-page document that was in plain English.
Nothing at 20 pages is simple.
No, it was a simple 20. No, it has to be because it deals with holidays, sick leave, this, that, everything else. No. If you're going to have, with the world full of lawyers and bullshit and everything else, you have to have a pretty concise, sensible document to run your shit show by.
Yeah. Hence why I'll never employ anybody again.
Well, this is the whole thing.
I would much rather do it all myself.
Here we are. We've got a whole state here.
Yeah.
Who doesn't know whether they can work from home or whether they can't. We've got a major company here saying that they blame working from home probably for about a 24% slide in their fucking profits.
Yeah.
Now that's real. Yeah. And they can't do it year on year.
No, they can't.
But yet we've got a politician telling the private sector that whether or not their staff work at the office or whether they work at home. Can you imagine?
I can. I have nightmares about it. Can you
imagine if you had have invested in some high quality office space in Sydney or Melbourne in the second half of 2019 and you had have borrowed a significant sum of money for that said office space, and then all of a sudden you're trying to meet the payments on that loan and that office space is unused because everyone's working from home.
Yes.
That whole thing's been tipped on its head. The whole, like they would
and you've got some bimbo like this idiot who thinks she knows what's best for private business. She's never had a job.
Look,
still doesn't have a job.
I'd like to work from home.
Sure.
The only problem I've got is I haven't got three-phase power here, and I haven't got a flatbed router, and I haven't got a welder, and I haven't got a drop saw, and I haven't got blah, and I haven't got blah.
You can always move them up here.
Yeah, but then I'd have complaints from my neighbours, then I'd have...
Well, look.
No, seriously.
I'm
serious. The whole thing is so...
There's very little that I'm not serious about. I know sometimes I come off like a bit of a lark, but...
Put it this, we're back to this cost-shifting seed that started the whole conversation. Now, council on the one hand are complaining about cost shifting, and then they go and introduce a whole program dabbling in a sphere for private sector that they're not involved in and they have got no say in and they don't really deserve to be in.
They have no experience no capability.
They're injecting themselves into an area when realistically they've got a lot of other more serious things. Now, this could go on and on, but that's only one example of councils injecting themselves into spaces where they haven't traditionally been. Why are two councils in the area running a HR program?
Oh, I can guarantee there'd be 100 of them doing the same mimicking because they don't have any original ideas.
But they're doing it with grant money.
Of course they are.
But the grant money comes from where?
From us, again.
Yes. So we're paying for it.
Of course we are. But it's a free program because everything's free. But that's all marketing and scamming bullshit.
Really. I got an invitation to attend the workshops on Wednesday. But I was at work. You know what I mean? I was at work, so I didn't have time to go to the workshop.
Well, but fuck, no, this is going to hurt my head.
No, I'm telling you, I have done everything over and above to bring people to Temora, to relocate people to Temora, and to provide productive employment. And then I've got all these other issues that impact me in supplying consistent, reliable, working conditions.
I am fairly confident I've got a little bit of marketing clout and I've got a little bit of salesmanship going on. If I wanted to turn my little pest business into something quite significant on a state level, I reckon I could arguably do it. I reckon I could really knuckle down and do it. But as soon as I would step into that zone of all that bullshit that we were just talking about in workplace, I'm out. I'm done. I have no desire whatsoever to create jobs for anybody in that capacity at all. Therefore, I go, you know what? I'm just going to do the jobs I'm going to do. I'm going to build up my little client base, look after them exceptionally well, and I'll take on a few new clients here and there. As soon as I get to the point, and I did have a guy reach out the other week going, oh, mate, have you got any work? I'd love to come and do pest control for you. We can, we can grow it and we can expand it. And I said, only way I'd do it would be as a partnership. And it would need to be a equal risk, i.e. where, I'm not your dad.
100%.
And as soon as I said that, oh, no, look, I really want a wage. I'm out, done. I'm not interested in having that conversation.
Go and find.
I don't have any interest whatsoever in hiring a HR department, jumping through any HR hoops, paying any extra insurance than the bullshit amount of insurance I already pay. There's not enough money in it to be worth the headache or the aggravation. And I mean, I know I'm a guy with a pretty sunny disposition as a general rule, but fucking compliance and bullshit is absolutely not something I want any part of. If they ask me at my job, why won't you go down the management path? Because I don't want to babysit fuckwits. I have no interest. I will father my children. I will coach kids on occasion. But I do not want to be responsible for grown adults. I don't want to hear about your girlfriend dumped you, your boyfriend. We get this with employees. And I don't fucking care. Do you know why I don't care? You're an adult. Go and deal with your shit. No, I'm not paying you to go home and deal with your shit. That's your problem. But I'm sad. Don't care. Not interested. It's not that I don't care on a personal level. I feel for you. But as your boss, which I refuse to be these days, I've done it. I had 40 fucking employees once and it was the stupidest thing I ever did. Never do it again. Oh, this is wrong. That's wrong. I've got this happening. I need this happening. I'm not interested. I don't want all that. And if you do that and you said something hurtful, I'm going to report you. Fuck off. There you are. That's what I think about your hurtful words. And we get it so much these days. It's getting worse. Oh, so-and-so said this. Oh, fuck, I'm going to go to HR and file a complaint. You touched me on the arm. That's assault. No fucking thanks. Don't touch me. Don't talk to me. Don't come near me. I would not employ anybody for all the gold in China. As soon as I've got to stack away enough cash so that when I can't work anymore, I don't have to. End of fucking story. I have no desire whatsoever. I will partner with people. You can I might subcontract some work. Now, if I got 2 jobs, I'm going to pay you this much money. You happy to do them? Yep, no worries. Thanks very much. See you later. There's the dough. Job's done. Happy days. Not a chance in hell I would employ anyone.
It's very, very difficult space, and the costs are outstripping the benefit for a lot of the employers at the moment.
Unless you're a massive company.
Well, but even if you're not a massive company, there's whole sectors that are going to start running out of work. There's whole industries that are really struggling to maintain.
Trucking industry. There are trucking companies going bankrupt every week.
Weekly. And big ones.
Massive ones.
And just their costs.
And the freight hasn't stopped.
Their costs are outstripping their income.
Absolutely they are.
And it's just the compliance and all of the whole... Look, there's only so much blood you can suck before these people feel faint and fall over. And that's where it boils down to. But we all know that probably the major end game in this is that a lot of this compliance is being driven by the corporates.
Of course.
The bigger businesses. So that...
Look, they want one big sign company in Australia. They don't want to be Irvine Signs. They want Anthony Irvine to get a good drone job for his 20 cents an hour working for Aussie Signs owned by Anthony Albanese and 3/4 owned by the Australian government or whatever it is.
Whatever it might be.
And you'll get your little pittance to go out and do your sign writing.
It'll be bunning signs.
And all the signs will be exactly the same and you'll do as you're told. and then they want anybody who's a chef to work all at the same McDonald's restaurants. You know, it's the movie Demolition Man. You remember that movie? That was I don't think that was supposed to be a documentary.
Yeah.
But we're getting pretty close. Where I think every food place in America is Taco Bell.
Yes.
Because
The whole thing.
they had the great fast food wars, and Taco Bell won, and that was the only one. So everything was Taco Bell, and then.
But that's where it's at, and this is the whole thing. We've got local government on the one hand complaining about cost shifting, on the other hand moving into spaces that they don't have a role.
You've got no business being there.
Yeah. So
how many?
And then they're extracting grant funding, which is coming back out of the pocket of the people that they're supposedly supporting.
How many?
But
council's current.
But if the government were doing a proper job of HR, we wouldn't need to have this problem. Like,
if government were just staying out of it, it's none of their business. Look, and yes, you're going to argue that some employers are really, really shit, and that they'll take advantage, and they will.
But we've got, like, if you looked into workplace legislation and all the regulations associated with it, there's such a hierarchical tree of compliance.
Australia has some of the most complicated HR laws on planet Earth.
This program where a lady who was actually being offshored by a company in the Philippines has had a fair work case upheld.
Yes, fuck off, no.
An unfair dismissal. She said an unfair dismissal.
And I'm quite happy to potentially outsource as much shit as humanly. But look, my advantage, my new advantage now is
exporting this slavery isn't an option.
No, now I don't need to now. Now I pay AI bots to do all that shit for me.
But if you want to run a business in Australia and you want to outsource to a cheaper country, there should be a tariff on the way in. Like
right, Donald.
No, the thing that shits me the most is here I am in regional New South Wales trying to run a sign writing business, which to a large extent is a manufacturing business.
Sure, yeah.
Now I've got to pay power costs, I've got to pay wages, I've got to pay OH&S, I've got to pay all the compliance, all the licensing, all of the bullshit to exist in regional New South Wales.
Yes.
And that comes at a high price.
Yes, lucky you get to produce things that people want, and you're very, very fortunate to be able to do that.
So everything that comes into Australia that competes with me should have a tariff to reflect.
Well, and that's been Donald's argument with this. Yes.
To reflect the prices that I have to pay.
Yes.
So if they're paying, if I'm going to pay $30 an hour and they're paying $5, there should be a tariff that brings it up to 30.
Look, I agree, but I don't. And the reason being, it is still a tax, and I oppose all tax as a fundamental rule.
But how can Australia have a?
Australia can't, and we don't compete. Man, if we wanted to compete on the same level, it wouldn't be with the wages we'd compete with. It'd be with free power for all of our businesses.
That's another.
And that's all we would have to do is fuck. Alan Jones, whether you love him or hate him, one of the things that I've heard him say multiple times, including in person, was when he was a boy and they had a cow at the farm, the first thing they did before they sold the milk was make sure they had enough for their family first. Very, very simple principle, Australia. We have some of the best natural resources in the world. Make sure everybody in Australia basically has effectively free power, which it could be done. I know people, what about maintenance fees, whatever. There are arguments for, sovereign funds. There are ways to work your way around these things. But we should have the cheapest power prices in the world, and businesses who do business in this country, that should be our number one advantage. We rip so much iron ore out of the ground, send it to China, and then we buy it back. We've got to be the dumbest fucking country on planet Earth. Why aren't we making our own? Why is it non-profitable?
Or if we do rip it out, the royalties have to reflect.
Yes. I'm happy to sell lots of shit to lots of countries. And I'm happy to go, okay, well, there's some of your shit we have to buy back. Bit of a reciprocal give and take thing. I get that. But we're not looking after our own interests first. We are dumb as a bag of hammers, and it's getting worse. We should have the cheapest price. We had a discussion today about, obviously, cars. We're talking about the circus that is cars. One of the Chinese car manufacturers, I won't name names, but there's 85 different fucking car manufacturers in Australia. One of the Chinese ones is running a program whereby the dealers that take on this particular brand. Now, I don't deal in this brand, but what they do is every car that Anthony's car yard sells this brand, every car you sell, you get $500 flat. That's your profit margin on that. If you hit the targets that they give you, you get 50 grand a month. So let's just say they say you got to sell 50 cars, whatever it is. All right. I don't know what the target is particularly, but say the cars targets 50 of these Chinese branded cars, you get $500. Let's get the lights on, pay your monkey who's sitting there, whatever the story may be. And then at the end of it, you get 50 grand a month or 150 per quarter. So 150,000 per quarter, as long as you meet target. Problem with the target is they haven't manufactured enough fucking cars for you to be able to sell and deliver the cars to meet the target.
Well, that sounds like good business.
But it's very, very common. I'm currently running into a Nissan Patrol drought. They've been my biggest seller now for the last 2 years, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I'm running into a point where I've pretty well got 20 left to sell between now and mid next year. So anybody who's listening that thinks they want one, don't think that they're going to be easy to get. The V8s are very, very hard for me to get. And I'm pretty good at getting shit when I want it. Then, of course, the discussion came on to, fuck, wouldn't it be good to turn around and find a way to relaunch an Australian car company? Fucking great. Now, we can't compete on steel prices. We can't compete on energy prices. We can't compete on wages.
We can't make computer chips.
We can't make computer chips. We're kind of half buggered. But out of that, there's probably 4 of those we could solve. We could arguably say to a car company, you'd have to do it to all companies, but as a car company, you go, right, I don't know, Anthony's car company, because we can't bring one. We're not going to bring Holden back there dead. Anthony's got a couple of bucks and he's got a dream and he knows how to, a bit of an idea for a design for a couple of cars. Brilliant. Right, where are we getting the funding from? Donald Trump says he's going to give you $1 billion to get started. Again, pull the numbers pie out in the sky stuff. But then you go, how are we going to make this sustainable? I can't compete with China on power prices. They've got coal-fired power everywhere. They've got nuclear. They've got fucking all that. How are we going to compete on wages? We're not going to compete on wages in this country. If the Australian government turned around and went, well, hang on a minute. There's no reason you should be paying any of these power prices. We have enough resources before we send all of our shit to China to ensure that you've got all the power you want. So power's now free. Take that out of your smelter, out of your manufacturing, whatever. We can compete on that. And we should be competing on that. No, not with fucking windmills and solar panels. They don't do the job. But we could be competing on that. We could very easily compete on the technology. I think if we harnessed our smartest people, we could do that. I have no doubt there would be some real smart pricks running around here who could go, I can design a shit hot car, and this is the technology with what's already in existence. We could tweak it this way. We could produce these parts. We could manufacture X, Y, and Z. Nissan's still one of the only car companies in the country that does produce some parts in Australia, apparently. So we could do that. We could compete on sales. We just couldn't compete on wages, in theory, if we get government out of the way. We could create a car company in Australia if we got the government out of the way, and it could be viable. It'll never happen.
No.
Because these fucking useless parasites love being in the way.
Well, I think that's quite lucrative for them to be in the way.
Of course,
they're in the way of a lot of things. They're in the way of housing prices. They're in the way of them.
And that's I guess that's what I'm leading into, is all of these things are stonewalled, and effectively we're being raped and pillaged by our own government for very, very loose ideas.
Well,
builders are going broke every 15 minutes. Why is that? I know some of them are dodgy. Hell yes. Some do the Phoenix company thing. I'm not saying they don't exist. But if we're running a country whereby every time... Yep.
Now, we're talking about the CPI in Australia. Now, let's look at insurance. I got an insurance renewal. They're telling me that insurance is running at 3.1% June quarter to June quarter.
Yeah.
My insurance quote with the same company for the same insurance is 17% dearer.
Yep.
I honestly think inflation is running at about 15%.
I think you're right.
The idea that it's running at 3.1
is a lie.
Well,
again, we're manoeuvring numbers on pages to paint a narrative.
It got up to, in December 2022, they said it got up to 7.8% inflation. They reckon it's trending up, and it's actually currently at.
Bullshit. That's what it's currently running at.
Yeah. Look, it's all groups. They're saying it's 2.1%. June.
But you look at the differences you look at it's off its head.
The whole thing is just.
The whole thing's off its head.
And
insurance is the biggest rorter on planet Earth. We all know that's one of the best businesses in the world to be in, because you make fuck all payouts compared to the amount of things that you need to insure versus the amount of people who are so shit scared of everything happening that they pay through the wazoo for
the whole
effectively protection money.
The whole thing's it's not a great place to be, and the only way really to exist is to be absolutely lean and mean and to keep as many of those parasitical costs away from your business as you possibly can. There's a hamster wheel, and I'm telling you, if that hamster wheel loses a bit of RPM, you're up shit creek.
Oh,
you have to pedal and pedal and pedal, and as soon as you stop pedaling, the bike falls over really quick. So it's a grind, and there's no easy cash. They're moving, the government are moving their tentacles into, like I say, we've got Temora Shire Council and Bland Shire Council starting to provide HR services for local businesses. And it'll come at a cost at some point in time. And it's already coming at a cost.
I was going to ask you before. Now you're more in tune of the details of Temora Shire Council. I have bigger fish to fry. But out of the enterprises that Temora Shire Council runs, because there's a couple that count as far as I'm concerned as enterprises, how many of them are actually profitable? What profitable enterprises does Temora Shire Council run?
We can't get that meaningful detail because the financial figures haven't got the cost centres and the breakdowns to the point where anyone can analyse that. That was a comment that was made by the Minister for Local Government. And one thing that he really is trying to empower councillors with is actually having a transparent set of financial figures that a standard business person can interrogate and actually drill into. We've had this conversation. You told me that if I got you the books,
we'll sit down and go.
But I've given you the finances, and there's nothing that you can glean from them.
There's fuck all in them.
It's a brick wall.
Yes.
There's nothing that you can see. You can't drill in and you can't say that much for that. Surely you must be joking.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a complete farce.
No, you can't do any of that.
And
so
that alone, one, is fucking wrong.
Totally.
To start with.
Look, I've said this before, but my opinion is that councillors are more decoration than function, and the councillors are put there to create the illusion that the average ratepayer has some say over
some
their
influence
destiny.
In there. Yeah, that's right.
And I honestly believe that a lot of council direction is driven by the state government through the council officers.
Yep.
I've had instances, and I've got instances that I could pull, and these are not private or confidential, where I could show you where council officers have made a decision. They basically come to council for a rubber stamp.
Yeah.
So the council haven't even been consulted in the initial phases. Council officers come to us and say, "Oh, look, we've had to do this in a real hurry because the grant funding is going to close out, and we've done this. And what do you think?"
Oh, real hurry! I don't think they ran grants for 12 minutes.
Well, this is the world we live in.
I know,
and it's so difficult as a councillor to sit there and go, "Look, my impression is, and this is my opinion again, that the council officers use the councillors to make the decisions they don't want to make."
Yeah.
If it's an easy decision, they'll make it and then they'll just tell us they've made it. If it's a hard decision that they don't really want any blowback from, they'll give it to us. So if there's two poor choices in the decision, then we have to justify them to the community, and we become the human shield.
Somebody, yeah, that's right. The council's made a decision, and
Yeah.
this is where it's at.
Like I say, that's where that's at. But I'm telling you, like the whole thing, just
it's bullshit slush fund accounting, and it's look,
there's no. The councillors aren't given the tools or the ability to actually drive the business and to be the
leaders of the community, yeah.
And it's just taken out of their hands. Now, one of the problems is, of course, people don't see the quality of decisions, and people don't actually see who's representing them the best.
Well, that's because we don't live stream these things because the technology is too difficult.
And it's
how many councillors are there?
9.
Well, I can make StreamYard.
No, it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, I've been to a council meeting where council made a decision that was clearly and obviously wrong, and
I find that hard to believe.
I was the only councillor who voted against it, and council voted 8-1 against it. Now, that decision was to approve the donation of 90 cubic metres of
the gravel, the poisoned,
highly likely to be contaminated fill.
Yeah.
And council weren't going to have that fill tested, and they were going to put that on a clean site.
Yeah.
Now, only through my protestations and my constant requesting of and actually digging up the legislation and putting it before certain people, did council actually pull up and stop making such a bad decision.
Yes. I think having you and other people like you in those rooms is invaluable.
But what I'm saying is, even when you've got 9 people that are supposedly sensible people, you can still have really stupid decisions made.
Oh, without a doubt.
We spoke about the absurd decisions that were made last week. I put a notice of motion forward saying that when council were going to ramp up the enforcement in any particular area of council's business or compliance control,
fundraising, yeah.
Well, it would be sensible to let the community know that that particular area are on the radar, and it would help ease a lot of the friction that can arise from people getting fined intermittently or inconsistently.
Yeah.
Now, I had a conversation with a ratepayer today, and they said, look, council issued 2 fines for parking infringements over a 2-month period in 2024 of June and July.
Yep.
They did not issue another parking infringement until June this year, and they issued 8 in 1 month.
Yeah.
Now, there were people who were obviously upset that all of a sudden...
Yeah, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Since when does this happen?
And the ratepayer that I spoke to today said, yes, council would be better off issuing 1 or 2 fines a month and just having that enforcement action consistent and visible.
Or issue none and mind your business.
Well, obviously, the most preferable outcome is for council to communicate the issue, the community to cooperate, no need for fines.
Yes.
That's the preferable outcome from my mind.
Sure.
Yeah. If everyone said, okay, we've got to drive along these roads at a sensible speed so that no one gets hurt and everyone gets home safe of an evening. And if everybody just said, oh, well, I'm going to drive sensibly and get home safe, we wouldn't need speeding fines.
Well, we don't need them.
No, well, like I say, there's a few people who are a little bit selfish, and sometimes they'll take unnecessary risks and maybe endanger the lives of others. And maybe you do have to intervene and say, look, son.
Well, and maybe there are some.
You're heading.
Maybe there are some people who drive a little bit too slow, and maybe there are.
Yeah, like I say,
well, we can go through the gene pool and go, it's pretty broken, and some stupid things happen.
A lot of these things come in to keep us safe.
Oh, I don't need to be kept safe, and I'd like to see warning labels removed from absolutely everything, and just Let nature take its course.
Yeah.
If you need a sticker on a battery to say don't drink the battery acid, I recommend you drink battery acid.
Yeah.
That's a positive outcome.
A fair way past there, and I think you're sort of making statements that are probably the chance of them ever coming true.
Mate, I was in a hotel many years ago now, maybe 10. You know, obviously in hospitality, I went around a lot of hotels. And at one stage, I was in a hotel and there was a sign in the shower recess. Don't use the provided hairdryer while in the shower. Now, there's two pretty significant thought processes that popped into my head straight away. One, electricity and water, pretty stupid idea. Two, who the fuck's under running water trying to use a hairdryer?
Yeah.
You probably deserve to be electrocuted. It would be an advantage for you not to be
maybe they just want
you're that fucking dumb.
Maybe they don't care. Maybe they just don't want it in their hotel.
I don't care. I just think, Jesus Christ, if we're that broken, I don't want to save you. I don't feel the need to help you. I think we're just done in that little arena.
My week has been massive. After we spoke last week,
yes,
I jumped into my bed, had a few hours kip, jumped in the car.
Yes.
Trundled off to Sydney. I left at probably 3:30 in the morning. Had a good run.
Yes.
Got there about 8.
Because you had a reasonably significant little project on Friday morning last week, didn't you?
Well, yes,
and I know that a few people have asked me how you went, and I just have said tune in on Thursday for a bit of a report.
As a bit of a background,
pardon me,
I had a hearing at NCAP. Anyone who's been following us knows that I put in a GIPA request. No. The previous general manager and the governing body of Temora Shire Council signed an agreement. That agreement came into effect whilst I was a councillor early July 2023. I asked for a copy of the agreement and I was met with an answer that said I had to sign a confidentiality agreement that I wouldn't disclose anything within that document to any third party before I could view a copy of that agreement in the company of the mayor, in the council chambers, and I couldn't take notes and I couldn't take a copy.
Right.
And I rejected that on a number of grounds, but purely the simple fact is I'm not going to sign any document and be party to an agreement that I haven't read.
Yep.
So that was the first and foremost. And secondly, the agreement was entered into by council on behalf of the ratepayers and residents of Temora Shire Council. Therefore, that document should be viewable by the residents and ratepayers of Temora Shire Council.
Agreed.
They were the grounds. So put in a GIPA request for it. And over a very long and convoluted process that's been taken huge amounts of my time unnecessarily, we've got to a point now where about 95% of it's been released. And we're basically trying to ascertain what part of that remaining 5% has a valid right to be redacted and what part of it may be released to the community so that we can know what the entirety is of the released material.
I recall we first started talking this before we got kicked off pterodactyl.
That's exactly, and that was probably the key issue that actually caused the
tantrum to be thrown.
Some people became uncomfortable about it being discussed in the public, and there was a real attempt by some people who were maybe embarrassed or didn't want the facts known.
Yeah.
To have that conversation shut down. Well, where we sit at the moment is the hearing started at 10 a.m.
Yep.
I was the applicant. Temora Shire Council were the respondent. They were represented by some legal representation from Lindsay Taylor Lawyers from Sydney.
How do they afford that when $500 of our rates are being taken?
Well, that's not by other tiers of government. That's spent by themselves.
Oh.
So it wasn't cost shifting. It was cost spending.
Just spending, yeah. Who was your legal representative?
Myself.
How much did that cost to the ratepayer?
Nothing.
Nothing. Right. Okay. Just checking for well, not for my benefit. I already know, but for particular spectators who maybe go, oh.
Now, basically, Temora Shire Council have given me a notice of decision and so they've already dealt with this matter, and under the GIPA Act, they don't have to give me any information if it's already been dealt with.
Right.
Okay.
Has it all been dealt with? Because
Well,
I'm of the understanding that it hasn't.
This is a really, really unusual situation. And in the case conference, the tribunal member that held the case conference said, this is such an unusual situation. 99.9% of GIPA applicants don't get to this
Stage.
Yeah. And it is.
Oh, and you've taken this extremely seriously, and you've been extremely professional with dealing with it.
But this has been so unusual, and a lot of the circumstances is completely never before encountered by an individual and the tribunal. So it's the Information Commission has been involved in this. It's been a very interesting process. Now, the main points that I raised, and there was a couple of them, are this. There's a clause that I'm going to activate at the conclusion of this process that it's going to allow me to sign their waiver, and I will access the remaining redacted material in that document at that point.
Yeah.
So I just
so one way or another, you're going to know what's in that document.
As a councillor, I'm going to know about it, but obviously I'm going to sign
an NDA.
An NDA saying I'm not going to disclose that.
Now the problem
hang on. I'm not going to disclose that redacted part that remains redacted. All the rest of it's public release, so that can be freely discussed. There's a couple of paragraphs that still remain redacted. Now, the issue that I raised with the tribunal was simply this. If I access that document after signing the NDA, and there's material within that should have been released under the GIPA requests, where do we stand?
Yep.
Surely then that will activate the requirement for some sort of an appeal. There'll be future proceedings. There'll be issues for the respondent because they won't have adhered to the obligations within the GIPA Act.
Yep.
So that's the first element that I've got issues with.
Yep.
So I asked that the tribunal consider that and to ensure that everything that's been released, everything that should be released has been released, and the only materials that remain redacted is information that should be redacted.
Sure.
And
they seem to be fighting awfully, awfully hard, tooth and nail, to not let the people of Temora know what's in that document. What have they paid his mortgage for him? Have they given him shares in an asbestos farm? Have they?
It's not even.
What's the? There's something not. Look, there's one forcing you to sign an NDA to look at it in the first place seemed fucking ludicrous to me, right?
Well,
hence where we went down this path. Hang on a minute.
But even how
that smells. There's something.
If I'm a councillor and the mayor's been party to it, and a number of the other councillors know what's in it, then fair's fair. As a councillor, you should be privy to it.
Yes.
Simple. And also, if it's going to be enacted whilst you're a councillor, if I'm going to be held,
you're being held accountable, or your signatures to that document, you should be able to go, okay, I want to know what's in it. The document
was entered into in 2019, but it was actioned whilst I was a councillor in 2023.
Yeah.
So I believe that there's elements there. Now, the other element that as the general manager, this is the only staff member of Temora Shire Council whose remuneration is reported on a yearly basis to the community. And you've seen the reports.
Yes. In
the financial documents, the only person whose salary and entitlements are reported is the general manager.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a situation here where Mr. Lavelle has spent 30 years accruing these entitlements.
Yeah.
And at the end of his tenure as general manager, there's an arrangement to transfer him from the public into this private, hidden realm.
Yeah.
Well, surely at that point there must be some reckoning or reconciliation or report made to, like, and this is a little bit, it's hard to sort of imagine, but you can imagine it's going from a sphere where it's publicly reported what he's getting
to being not reported, and it's a secret.
being not reported, and there's a transfer and a crossing over from two forms. And I think some of the redactions are relying on the second form, but not taking into account the first form of the public reporting. So, and my shortcoming is I haven't got the case law or all of the legislation available to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a sign writer.
What?
However, the tribunal member was very patient. He gave both parties an opportunity to put their case forward clearly. He asked a lot of questions. A lot of material was provided to him. And he's reserved his decision. But I suppose the point I want to make is this. Lindsay Taylor's had one of their senior partners available
For this
matter. If the matter that I put forward had no merit, they would have dispatched with the matter.
They would have spanked you and wrapped you and sent you packing.
Number one, it wouldn't got past the case conference.
Yeah.
But even at the hearing, if there was no basis to anything that I was putting forward, it would have been done and dusted pretty quickly, and they would have gone off and done something else.
And they would have went, "Ha, you dumbass, do as you're told."
Well, they would have just said, "No, clearly, Mr. Irvine, there's nothing. You've got to have grounds. You've got, there's elements. There's reasons to be there and reasons that they can say we don't need to be
here." Yeah.
Well, so
This is not frivolous. They haven't turned around and said,
No,
"Listen, you're a pain in the ass councillor who's throwing mud for no reason."
And
they're digesting this,
I also said,
analysing
I
this,
don't want to waste anyone's time. And the tribunal member said, "No, you're not wasting time. This is important and it needs to be dealt with."
Yeah.
So we clarified that I wasn't wasting anyone's time. Now, at about the midday mark, the tribunal member took the opportunity to adjourn so that he could read more of the information and make sure he was fully satisfied with what he was that he was dealing with, what he thought he was dealing with.
Yep.
So we returned back. Generally, there's a lunch break. They'll break from 1 till 2.
Yep.
So it was agreed at about that midday mark to allow the tribunal member to have a significant amount of time to read some material and also have some lunch, and so that the rest of us basically we had a 2-hour break.
Yep.
And we returned back to the.
And you went and had lunch with the Lindsay Taylor lawyer?
No. I went and had lunch
council
with someone
representatives, and then you went and played pool, had 10 beers each. No.
So I went and had lunch with someone else, and it was really productive. And then we returned at 2, and then the tribunal member had some questions and clarified some points, and then at about that sort of 3 o'clock in the afternoon mark, the tribunal member basically said, "Well, thanks very much. I've got everything that I'd considered that I think's relevant for me to consider the matter. But I'm going to reserve my decision, and I hope to be able to make a decision, in a reasonable period of time."
Yeah.
So,
So you certainly didn't get your ass kicked.
No, look, honestly, it's just unusual. Never does anyone go into a GIPA thing asking for information, knowing that if they sign a document, they can have it anyway.
Yeah.
So then it also opens up a can of worms. If I get that document, there's all these there's so many different things at play. Plus, there's also these other elements of it. There's a high degree of public interest.
Well, let's just say they finally give you the document, and you find out that in it, I don't know, it's something really, really stupid, right? Now I don't know. Sorry.
Say, for instance, there was a clause in there that said we as ratepayers had to provide Mr. Lavelle with the motor vehicle.
Okay.
Now, already in that document, it says that both parties agree that Mr. Lavelle doesn't have to perform any duties.
Yes.
So you would sit there and you'd say, okay, if this agreement is just for you to use up your leave and entitlements,
Yeah.
why on earth do we need to provide you with the motor vehicle?
Sure. What I'm saying is, if the part that they're protecting is completely frivolous, the way you look at it, you go, fucking really? You fought this hard to protect that? There's going to be two sides of it. Well, geez, Irvine, you carried about nothing. The other side of it's going to be they've just spent a shit ton of ratepayers' money to protect nothing. Now, if they're paying a shit ton of ratepayers' money to protect something extremely innocuous and frivolous, you've got to ask, is it personal towards you? And then if you're sitting there fighting, because you don't know what's in that document at this stage, so you're fighting because they're very, very determined to hide it. If you finally get there and you go, fuck is this? It'll be very Monty Python-esque. But then the next side of that is, right? So if it's very innocuous and the general public are going, well, hang on a minute, that's not even serious. Well, what were you doing, Irvine? Well, I was trying to find out. What I want to know is why did they spend $100,000 on lawyers to defend nothing? Then the next question
I can't say what council have spent on the matter.
When I throw random numbers out like that, ladies, and I've said this in many, many programs, if I'm stating a number as a fact, I will say this is the number as I have. Other than that, it's generally but let's say they spent $100,000 and it's 2/10 of nothing. And let's just say something really innocuous that, I don't know, let's say Gary owns 2 horses that we didn't know about that council gifted him, and a few people go, well, he probably earned it, whatever, right? It's not going to be earth shattering. But then on the other side of it, the level and the commitment to defending whatever the hell they've redacted here, it's got to be pretty significant. It would have to be, because they're defending it to the tune of, again, pulling a number out of my ass, say $100,000 worth of ratepayers' money. Let's say it's $50,000, whatever. It's still a significant sum.
What is $1,000 is a significant sum if you're spending money to keep a secret.
That's
So anything,
but you could argue, go, it's none of your business, bugger off. That's private business. We're going to send a lawyer down there, and he's going to tell you to bash it up your ass. And you go, most people would be $1,000, whatever, right? But this isn't $1,000. This is big money they're throwing at it to stop.
Well, there's been a lot of effort and a lot of energy.
A lot of effort, a lot of on the table cash to a law firm. Not to mention, I imagine, paid cash to staff members who are working their asses off to produce all this. And somewhere in the middle of all that, this is worth defending to that tune. What's the secret?
Well, that's the whole thing.
It's got to be a pretty significant secret.
Well, we don't know. And this is the whole thing. So, look, at some point in the not too distant future, we're going to find out. I'm going to find out. Now, obviously, if there's something in there that concerns me to the point that I consider it worthy of taking it to a third-party integrity investigator, then obviously I can take that as a public interest disclosure, and I'll be protected for taking the confidence. So I can sign the confidentiality agreement and still be protected to break the confidentiality agreement if I take it in confidence to a third-party integrity agency.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if I take it to a third-party integrity agency, I wouldn't be obliged to inform anyone that I had, and I certainly wouldn't be allowed to discuss what I'd taken.
The matters of, of course.
But I think the outcome certainly is that if I consider it worthwhile, then I've got avenues to have it investigated.
Yeah.
So I just don't know why we've had to go through it's taken.
Must be something pretty good hidden in those documents, I'm telling you.
Well, here we are in August 2025. Mr. Lavelle resigned on the 30th of June 2023, and I asked for a copy of it on or around that time.
Yes.
So we're well into the 2 years plus time frame here, even just getting this information. So that that's the wrap up from NCAT.
Yep.
I don't feel like I wasted my time. it was very inconvenient. I'm really busy at work. There's people whose jobs haven't been done and they've had to wait.
Yeah.
I apologise for that, but it's just something that I have to do, and it's I think you're you've got an obligation if you go down this path to follow it through and to meet your commitments. A hearing at NCAT in its own right is a very expensive and serious process, and anyone who treats it with disrespect, you know, they're wasting everyone's time and they're just making a fool of themselves.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to make the application and ask for a review of a decision and go to the case conference, and then you've got an obligation to turn up at the hearing. You've got to make sure that you're not going there just for bullshit reasons.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was encouraging that the tribunal, the senior member, was quite certainly wasn't dismissive and was certainly quite happy to sit and was patient and listen to all of the argument. And at one point I said, look, I don't want to waste the tribunal's time here. And no, he said, no, certainly this is by no means a waste of time. This is
important stuff. Yeah.
So that was encouraging, and that justified it. And look, in order to try and keep it compact and not have it impinge upon my workload and not have it to cost exorbitant amounts, well, I've had to compact it into one day.
Yeah.
Drive up, go to the hearing, drive home.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty intense. And I suppose if you did a risk assessment on something like that, you'd say, well, realistically, you probably should have, but
I look very to keep doing risk assessments and everything we do. People will be getting around with floaties on, hard hats on, and bloody you'll be wearing a condom while you're sitting on the couch watching TV alone.
Now, speaking of risk assessments, I suppose it'd be remiss of us not to touch on the tragedy that's unfolded at Pawnpunker.
Or unfolding.
Yes.
That's still swinging in action, I guess.
All I really want to say on the matter at this point in time, and it's just obviously a tragedy of a huge scale, there was a risk assessment done in relation to these 10 officers attended to execute a search warrant. 2 of those police officers are now dead, and another one's injured from gunshot wounds. And the person who's purportedly responsible for that's now on the run and at large. You've got to wonder what was missed in the risk assessment when that's the outcome, because risk assessments are done to eliminate risk or to minimise risk. And
I've made a couple of posts on it, 2 fairly simple posts. One, I rolled out my thoughts on police and law enforcement, and I think I was just honest about it. I think there's some great cops who do wonderful work. I think there's some that are droney dead shits who
and you've got
no good, and then
your extreme.
Yeah, and that was part of what I pointed out in every organisation. And then you have some that are rotten to the core and corrupt. Now, I'm not saying this is what's happening here. What I'm saying is, I can't do it. I'm not wired that way where I go, all cops are amazing or all cops are terrible. I can't go, all fireys are amazing, all are terrible. All sign writers, I can't do that. But
specifically,
what I did do when it first unfolded, I watched the police commissioner from Victoria put his statement out. I picked up a lot more of what wasn't said than what was. And that was where I went, this is right here is how people go down rabbit holes when you guys aren't being transparent. There was an awful lot there that he didn't say. What was the warrant for? He didn't come out and say that when he did his initial thing.
Subsequently, there's been a hell of a lot of speculation.
Look, I've heard every single speculation. I'm not going to do it here tonight. No. I'm not going to do it. What I am going to say though is when these authorities, and we all know how I feel about authorities, I don't trust them as entities because they are untrustworthy when they come out and they go. Now, and part of the post that I put up, if I'm the police commissioner and this has just happened and a couple of my guys are laid out, Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to do my media release. We've had an incident. 2 police are dead. We were going to apprehend a fellow who has, I don't know, bodies buried under his front yard, is running or whatever. These are the reasons we were attending the premises, but we were going to serve a warrant and we took 10 of us. Seems extremely heavy-handed.
Well, there's a lot
based on what we don't know. Seems extremely heavy-handed. Obviously, 2 people have died. I feel for. I absolutely do. And then the other side of it, of course, is, we have seen some outrageously bad decisions from police and law enforcement over the last 5 years.
Yes, but this has to be treated at the moment in isolation. I don't think a lot of these critical questions will be answered until a coroner's report.
I honestly don't think they'll be answered at all, really, in a satisfactory manner.
And there's just the tragedy that's unfolded is of a huge proportion. There's whole lives and families, and the effects are going to run deep into a community such as that.
And it's going to reverberate across the nation. You've got the marches for the weekend.
But even just
you've got
the mood that the current Victorian government are in, where they've banned machetes because a group of individuals were using them for nefarious deeds. A very small group of individuals were using them for nefarious deeds. And the knee-jerk reaction is to ban that outright.
Well, that's what I'm saying when I'm questioning these things.
But so realistically, I don't want to talk any more about that incident. I just hope that the rights of law-abiding people aren't impinged as a knee-jerk reaction from this event, and I hope that the facts of the event are made public and known. And
where we're starting to, and I guess, look, I know out of the 2 of us, I'm the least measured. Slavery was once legal. When we say law-abiding citizens, it was legal to own black people.
Yeah.
It was like legal doesn't make something right. And that's a very important thing to remember with all of this stuff. Legal's not always right. History has proven that time and time again. There are plenty of examples throughout history where things have been legal, and to be a law-abiding citizen, you're arguably an arsehole. The law isn't the only measure of right and wrong. In fact, in a lot of cases, it's not. Andrew Taylor's just joined us. He's been down at Kiama. He's nominated for the Kiama by-election.
I just don't know whether the time is now to be raising.
No, and I'm trying to be really measured with it. And Claire Nowlan's an example that I used in my little post the other day. And there was also a gay police officer who murdered his boyfriend the other day, or a couple of months back, whatever it was. We've had a police officer taser a little old lady to death. Police officers are not infallible.
No. No, but
look, and in saying that,
at the moment, we've got basically a guy who's on the run. We've got
2 dead cops and an injured cop.
Officers dead, and a wounded cop. And we've got the only thing that we know for sure and certain that a risk assessment was done. Well, obviously the risk assessment was flawed.
Clearly, it wasn't done well. Yes.
So at this point in time, I'm just going to probably say nothing more on the matter until.
And look, and I think I've been pretty measured. I know a few people who know the bloke on the run. I don't. Never met him. Never had a conversation with him up until recently. Couldn't have picked him out of a police lineup either. It is really sad for the families and for it's not sad for the dead people.
It's tragedy for the communities, and it's going to run.
The effects of this they're going to reverberate. It's going to affect the events on the weekend, I have no doubt.
Well, the events on the weekend, hopefully the events on the weekend can just run smoothly. I imagine, or my understanding is that the events on the weekend are protests against the amount of immigration.
Yes, that's the basis for said events.
Yeah, if anyone out there's got anything they can qualify that with, but that's what I understand to be.
I've like always in the circles that I kind of frequent, I think that's the foundation for it. There's obviously going to be some fringe
there's some people
potatoes
been
in and
trying to
around.
hijack it, and
Yeah,
there's also
yeah.
probably been a little bit of special sauce thrown in there from some of the media outlets.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned the Four Corners thing the other week. I can't remember the last actual full show of anything that I've watched. I haven't got bloody time. But
yeah, but we don't even need to go back there. I think that was just a ridiculous bit of unfortunate.
Well, I didn't see it, but no, look, I don't think that's unfortunate timing. I don't believe in coincidences.
Well,
they're having things like that on TV. All of a sudden, they're having then this happens, then that happens. Like, I'm not really a coincidence
One thing
guy.
I did watch,
Yeah,
on Monday night was Australian Story that dealt with the tiny home issue.
Yes.
Now, where
we have a new friend.
Well, we've been following Manu and his mate down in Bega Valley, and all of the trouble that they're having trying to habitate in a tiny home on a property that owned by others that are quite happy to have them there.
Yep.
And the council are trying to kick them off. But this the show that was on Australian Story on ABC at 8 a.m. on Monday night dealt with some people who were benevolent benefactors who had the opportunity to create some seed funding, and they chose to put together a program where they put it out to a bit of an open tender where people could make application. It was basically for vulnerable women.
Yeah.
So these vulnerable women could basically put their case and say, look, I'd really like to get access to this funding, and these are the circumstances I'm in. And the only caveat was that they had to have the ability to finish the project, and they had to have somewhere to put the home.
Yeah.
Now, one example of an applicant that was successful in achieving this funding was a lady who'd worked as a carer all her life. So she'd been in what are known and have been known as lower paid occupations all her life. She was a single woman. She had an adult daughter and she had a younger daughter, even though she was later in years. That I'm not sure, they didn't mention how that younger daughter came about, or
you learned
whether she'd adopted her, or whether from whatever, whether she'd adopted her, or how that may have. Anyway, so here she is approaching the end of her working life and the end of her earning capacity.
Yeah,
being in rented accommodation all her life, with no significant means behind her, basically living week to week.
Yeah,
and then facing retirement on a pension with dependents and no security. And she'd been basically living in a mild form of anxiety and stress for 10 to 15 years, coming up to this point. Well, the ability to have this tiny home, now she had the opportunity to pay a professional group to build. So she took the money and they provided an engineered chassis.
Yep.
Then she paid a professional company to build the tiny home on top, and then they delivered it to the site for her, and she'd arranged all that. Now, the sense of satisfaction, the relief, the security that
I have shelter.
I have shelter. That is one of the massivest boxes I can tick.
Yep.
I can go into the next phase of my life knowing that I'm not going to be homeless.
Worst case scenario, I have shelter.
I will not be homeless,
yes.
and I can provide for my daughter.
Yep.
That was unreal. There was one lady there who, her location that she was going to put the tiny home was down beside a river that is known to flood.
Yep.
In order to be able to locate the tiny home down in that location, because it's on wheels, she had to have a flood management plan. Her flood management plan was really significant. You know what her flood management plan said?
I'll drive away.
I'm going to tow this up the hill when it floods.
yes.
But when you think about that, all of a sudden, Australia's facing this housing crisis. We've got a lot of habitable land, but it happens to be flood prone.
Oh.
So if you've got a tiny home that you can basically live down beside the river for 9.999 years
of the time, before
out
of 10, happens,
and for 1 week out of that 10 years, you have to drag it up the hill and live up the hill.
And go and park on the side of the road up there,
and then bring it back down when the floodwaters go down and continue on your existence. All of a sudden, you've activated all this land that is a real headache for the planners at the moment, because they they can't allow you to build any sort of home
permanent structure there. Yes.
Permanent residence there because it's flood prone.
Yes.
So it ticks a lot of boxes in that sense. It ticks a lot of boxes in the affordability states. It ticks a lot of boxes. Like I say, these 15 women were vulnerable women. It every single one, like, and they didn't go through the whole 15 cases.
Yeah.
They didn't individually, but they went through. They picked out 2 or 3 of them that demonstrated the probably the key points. And I just saw nothing but
positive outcomes.
Yeah, there was.
Pardon me.
But the point in the end was all of these homes got cited within.
Of course they did, because some fucking idiot bureaucrat has to justify their existence by annoying some other prick.
But we've got some people in the north of the state being allowed to put a tiny home there, and we've got those other people down at Bega Valley at the moment getting
eviction notices and gang warfare.
So there needs to be, like I posted something, Surf Coast Council down, which is down Bells Beach type, mid-south coast of Victoria. They're doing a trial at the moment where they've got people on the books and they're just trying to figure out how these are going to fit in and how they can actually integrate them into their planning.
Yep.
Obviously, you're going to have resistance from people who want to buy land and develop it and have a bit of a closed market and keep some demand in place to keep some pressure on the prices.
Oh, look, they love that shit. But look, for years, and I think I've shared it maybe every 2 years for the last 20, a fellow in America was where I first come across the concept. He's a musician of some sort, not a big enough name musician that you had any idea who it was, but he'd seemingly made enough money to put this tiny home project together in the States, in one of the blue states. It was like California or San Francisco, somewhere where the homeless problem's epic.
Yeah.
And he basically, and they weren't even really, they were one room, like shacks for argument's sake. And he built them with a solar panel on each roof, paid for it himself, and other people donating. So it was all, but it was a warm, safe location that was with a lockable door, little window, a little wash up thing with a water tank on the back.
Yeah.
So that there was at least a little bit of water there. You could clean, these poor buggers could brush their teeth. If they had a job interview, arguably they could tidy themselves up. But there was a USB port and a power thing, so if they had to charge whatever little few possessions they may or might have had. And I think he built 30 or 40 of these things. And built them, got them up. All these homeless people were kind of, thank God, godsend, I've got somewhere to go overnight kind of scenario. And there are flaws. We can always go, it's very easy to go, well, who picks who gets them? Who, blah, blah, whatever. Of course you can go down that. Council came along, confiscated the whole lot. Confiscated them, got rid of them. Nope, unapproved. And all those same people, guess where they are? Back out on the street, sleeping under the bridge, sleeping in the street, in cardboard boxes. Good job, dummies. And that summed up for me at the time. I just remember the first time I ever watched that little 12-minute video. It was like a little sort of half a doco kind of thing on it. And I went, this is what's wrong with the world. It's not that there aren't perfectly capable, competent, well-meaning people who have managed to acquire some means, willing to share. He had nothing to gain from it, other than he wanted to do some good shit.
Yeah, but you're not allowed.
And some dead shit bureaucrat and his gang decided, no, those people are better off. It's safer for them to be over there under a bridge than in a little, effectively a cardboard box. Like, it was not a huge space.
It doesn't matter.
Not much bigger than the back of a Nissan Patrol.
A tiny home's not significant in floor space, but what it gives these people is security.
Well, and obviously the tiny homes you were looking at the other night, I did see the links and whatever. They were a little bit more substantial tiny homes than what old mate here had built, which were effectively boxes with a couple of things. But that's better than a tent. 4 hard, solid walls.
Yeah, better than a cardboard
You could lock
box.
the little door. You could, you had a light, and you had a little wash-up sink.
No.
You're probably still pissing in the street. I can't remember whether.
I don't know. Maybe you put some sort of a communal.
Whatever, however you're going to deal with it. But again, anything that's practical, cheap, affordable, sensible, and will solve an actual problem for people. And you've always got some arsehole dickhead who knows best. And they're usually do-gooders. They're usually the worst.
Well, they're usually the people who go home to their 5-bedroom house.
Oh, and preach and pray and whatever about
garage and
and how dare that filthy person want to live in who would live in such a thing?
Well, they don't want it there because it affects their view.
Yeah. Or the property prices in their neighbourhood or some bullshit. They're off their heads.
And inequality seems to be increasing across the government.
It's going to get worse, 100%.
And things like these are solutions. And I'm all about solutions. I know that putting my council hat on, that sort of stuff, I'm interested in. Anything that can allow people to exist and have a healthy, productive life. And I don't see much fun if you've got a minimum wage job and you've got to pay $750,000 for a property, and you're just going to be a mortgage slave and never have
a life outside of
going to your 3 jobs and then paying the mortgage and sitting on the floor because you can't afford furniture.
Yeah.
I don't see that as akin to slavery.
Well, it's counterproductive. It's just a shinier version of slavery.
Yeah.
That's all it is, And there are some people who don't want a big home. And they're quite happy to go, I'd love just a little space. And then I go bushwalking, hunting, fishing, boating, whatever.
But I honestly think the older you get, the less you need. And I think a lot of people get to that retirement type stage and they actually do divest a lot of the the stuff that they've accumulated.
And you know what? And the ones who choose not to, that's their right too.
Yeah, like McShit takes time to look after and McShit takes time to maintain it. And there's a certain point in time where you go, you know what? I've had all my McShit and I'm done with my McShit. Now I'm just going to sit in the sun and cook me bone.
It's not going to matter anyway, because what's going to happen is you're going to have to.
You're going to have nothing and be happy.
It's not going to matter.
Well, that seems to be the way they're trending. So hopefully these little programs can start to turn the tide, and it has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And hopefully, like even at this point in time, we've got councils giving eviction notices for this type of accommodation, but we've got other councils actually embracing it. We've got councils trialling it. The one thing that I can't understand is we've got a federal government, multiple state governments, and then we've got these councils, and we've got all these laws that are just so, I don't know, it's like you're crossing into another country.
Oh, well, Rich, look, if you're going to do that, let's do it properly.
And have some real choice.
And absolutely. Let's create that competition within the whole thing, whereby you can go, you know what, that state's the most suitable for what I want. That state provides the freedom for me to run my business at the lowest tax rate. So that's where I'm going to base my business.
Yeah.
That's where, the lifestyle there is what I would prefer. Or, you know what? I really want to pay lots and lots of tax and I want the government to be my daddy. I'm going to move to Victoria. That's how I sort of see it. And I'd love for a really proactive government to go, you know what, let's make New South Wales, for argument's sake, the business state. And we're going to cut every bit of red tape we can, and everyone bring your business here because it's going to be amazing. You can fucking go nuts. And
didn't you say that the New South Wales Public Service is the biggest employer in the Southern Hemisphere? Is that?
I think it's the Southern Hemisphere. Yeah, we talked about it the other week.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's off its head.
It is. It's too far gone in that space.
Well and truly.
Apart from that, I've been meeting people and making new friends, having some really good work outcomes, having some really good family outcomes. Life's great. Council's a challenge, but it's a challenge I'm quite happy to keep taking on. Like I say, these 2 notice of motions I put up, I'm not going to bother playing the recordings tonight because they're hilarious, but I'll go through and pick out a couple of the key points and we'll play them next week. But if anyone wants to listen to the debate, it's about that sort of 56-minute mark.
Yeah.
Both of the notices of motion sort of basically come up for discussion. And do yourself a favour, log into Temora Shire Council's website.
Do yourself a favour.
And have a listen to the audio, because it's really pretty much 2 notice of motions I put forward. The only person who actually voted for them and myself. 8 people voted against them, but they're going to get, well, we're getting it all anyway.
Fuck, what a circus.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everyone have a great evening. We'll catch you all next week.
Good on you, boys.
Thanks very much.